Oh, hell no. Not in my lobby.
Did I ask?
I'm just waiting for... Get up.
My friend is a guest here. He'll be down in...
Your friend? In this hotel?
Honey, the only reason someone like you walks into a place like this is to steal something.
I just need to sit here for...
Beggars are not allowed in this hotel. You're disgusting. You're stinking up my lobby. Get your dirty hands off that chair and get out.
The woman stood up slowly, brushed off her jeans.
Are you sure about that?
What happened next cost that receptionist her job, her manager his career, and that hotel its entire reputation.
Let me take you back. 6 hours before that lobby turned into a war zone. 5:15 in the morning, downtown, a penthouse apartment on the 32nd floor. The city was still asleep, but Adrienne Brooks was already up. She stood barefoot in her kitchen, pressing coffee grounds into a French press. No cream, no sugar, just black, the way her grandmother taught her to drink it when she was 15. The old woman used to say, "If you can't handle your coffee straight, how you gonna handle the world straight?" Adrienne handled the world just fine. She was the founder and CEO of Apex Equity Partners, one of the most aggressive investment firms on the East Coast. 22 years she built that company. Started with a folding table in a rented office above a laundromat. Now she managed a portfolio worth billions. Hotels, commercial real estate, tech startups. If it made money, Adrienne knew how to make it make more money. But you wouldn't know any of that by looking at her. Not today. She laced up her running shoes, tucked her phone into an armband, and ran 4 miles along the river. The sun was just cracking over the skyline when she got back. She could hear the birds fighting over something in the trees below her balcony. The shower was hot. The towel was warm. The morning was easy. She pulled on a pair of jeans, a white button-down shirt, sleeves rolled to the elbows, clean sneakers. No jewelry except a thin gold chain, the one her grandmother left her, the one she never took off. Today was Saturday. No meetings, no board calls, no investors to charm or competitors to outmaneuver. Today, she was just Adrienne, a woman going to meet an old friend for brunch, Raymond Cole. They'd known each other for over 15 years, met at a finance conference in Chicago back when Adrienne was still pitching her fund to anyone who'd listen, and Raymond was a mid-level analyst trying to climb the ladder. They hit it off over bad hotel coffee and worse conference food. Stayed friends ever since. Raymond was now a senior vice president at Crestline Hospitality Group, one of the largest hotel chains in the country. He was in town for their annual leadership summit, staying at the Wentworth Grand, Crestline's flagship property. And here's the part that matters. Adrienne's firm, Apex Equity Partners, had recently purchased 28% of Crestline Hospitality Group. 28%. That made her the single largest outside shareholder. The board was pressuring her for a decision: acquire the rest of the company or sell the stake and walk away. But today wasn't about any of that. While she was driving, her phone buzzed. Nina Thornton, her executive assistant. Nina didn't believe in weekends. "Morning. Quick update on Crestline. The board wants your answer by Wednesday. Full acquisition or divest. They're getting anxious." Adrienne stopped at a red light. "Table it. I'll deal with it Monday." "You know Raymond's at the Wentworth, right? That's a Crestline property." "I know. Just saying, if you wanted to take a look around while you're there." "Nina, I'm having brunch with a friend. That's it. I'll see you Monday." She hung up. The light turned green. 20 minutes later, she pulled into the valet lane at the Wentworth Grand Hotel. Not in a town car, not in a chauffeured SUV, in a 3-year-old sedan with a dent on the rear bumper from a parking garage in Newark. The valet looked at the car. Then he looked at her. His smile tightened just slightly, the kind of shift you'd miss if you weren't paying attention. Adrienne was always paying attention. She walked through the revolving door into the lobby, and the first thing that hit her was the smell. White orchids and furniture polish, and something underneath it all that smelled like old money pretending to be timeless. Crystal chandeliers hung from a ceiling 3 stories high. Italian marble floors so polished she could see her own reflection. A pianist in the atrium playing soft jazz on a baby grand, his fingers drifting through something slow and expensive. Guests in pressed suits sipped cocktails on leather couches. Bellhops in tailored uniforms moved like ghosts, efficient and invisible. She texted Raymond. "I'm here, lobby." His reply came fast. "Running 20 minutes late. Panel went over. Grab a seat, I'll be right down." Adrian found a chair near the window, sat down, crossed her legs, pulled out her phone, and started reading the news. She wasn't browsing, she wasn't lost. She wasn't casing the place. She was a woman in a chair waiting for a friend. And that, just that, was enough to start a war. It took less than 4 minutes. 4 minutes of Adrian sitting in that chair doing nothing, bothering no one. And that was enough. Brittany Caldwell spotted her from behind the reception desk. Brittany had worked at the Wentworth Grand for 3 years. Front desk. She knew the regulars. She knew the VIPs. She knew who tipped well and who didn't tip at all. And she absolutely knew when someone didn't belong. At least, she thought she did. She leaned toward her coworker, a younger girl sorting key cards, and whispered just loud enough to hear, "Watch this. Another one." The coworker glanced up, saw Adrian, and looked away fast, the way people do when they don't want to be part of something but don't have the guts to stop it either. Brittany smoothed down her blazer, straightened her name tag, and walked out from behind the desk like she was about to handle a spill on the floor. She didn't wait for Adrian to approach. She didn't smile. She didn't say, "Welcome." She walked right up to her, stood over her like a hall monitor catching a kid in the wrong corridor, and said it loud enough for the nearest 10 guests to hear. "Excuse me, ma'am, do you have a reservation?" Adrian looked up from her phone, calm, relaxed. "No, I'm waiting for someone. He's a guest here." Brittany tilted her head, the way someone tilts their head at a dog that just wandered into a restaurant. "And who would that be?" "Raymond Cole. He's staying in the hotel. He'll be down in about 20 minutes. Now, this is where a normal person would have said, "Let me check for you." This is where a normal receptionist would have picked up the phone, dialed the room, confirmed the guest, and maybe even offered her a coffee while she waited. Brittany didn't do any of that. She crossed her arms, shifted her weight to one hip, looked Adrian up and down, from the sneakers to the jeans to the button-down shirt, like she was cataloging every reason this woman didn't deserve to breathe the air in her lobby. "I'm going to need you to wait outside." Adrian blinked. "Excuse me?" "Outside, on the sidewalk. You can wait out there." "I'd rather wait here if that's all right. My friend told me to grab a seat in the lobby." "Well, your friend doesn't make the rules here. I do." Brittany's jaw tightened. She reached for the radio clipped to her belt, pressed the button, and said, with Adrian sitting right there, listening to every word, "Craig, I've got a situation at the front desk. Unauthorized individual in the lobby. Possible trespasser. Can you come down?" Adrian stared at her. "Trespasser? I walked in through the front door. And I'm asking you to walk back out through it." Adrian stayed seated. Her hands rested on the armrests. Her breathing was even. She looked at Brittany the way you look at someone who's making a mistake they can't undo, with patience, not anger. And that patience made Brittany angrier. "You think you can just sit there and ignore me?" "I'm not ignoring you. I'm waiting for you to do your job and call Raymond Cole's room." Brittany's face went red. Her nostrils flared. She opened her mouth to say something else, but the sound of heavy footsteps cut her off. Craig Ellison came around the corner. Head of security, 6'3", 240 pounds. Shaved head, black suit, no expression. He moved through the lobby like a wall on legs, and every head in the room turned to watch him. He stopped next to Brittany, looked down at Adrian the way you look at a stain on a carpet you just had cleaned. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to come with me." Adrian didn't stand up. She kept her voice even, steady. "I'm waiting for a guest. His name is Raymond Cole. He's staying in this hotel. You can call his room and confirm." Craig didn't reach for a phone, didn't look at Brittany for guidance. He just stood there, arms folded across his chest, blocking her view of the lobby like a human curtain. "Ma'am, I'm not going to ask again. And I'm not going to leave. I haven't done anything wrong. Call Raymond Cole's room, that's all I'm asking." Nobody called. Nobody checked. Nobody picked up a phone, walked to a computer, or even glanced at the reservation system sitting 6 feet away on Brittany's own desk. The name Raymond Cole was in the system. Room 1204, checked on Thursday night. A 30-second phone call would have ended everything. But that call never happened. The lobby had gone quiet. The pianist was still playing, but softer now, like even the music knew something was wrong. 2 women on a couch near the fireplace were watching over the rims of their wine glasses. A bellhop carrying luggage slowed his pace, eyes darting between Adrian and Craig. A man in a suit pretended to check his phone while angling the screen like a camera. Nobody said a word. Nobody stood up. And then Derek Weston walked in, general manager of the Wentworth Grand Hotel. Tall, silver hair, navy blazer with a pocket square that probably cost more than some people's groceries. He came from the direction of the restaurant, napkin still in his hand like he'd just left his Eggs Benedict halfway through, and scanned the lobby the way a landlord surveys property he's already decided to renovate. He saw Craig. He saw Brittany. He saw Adrian. He walked over, not fast, not urgent. The walk of a man who believes every room he enters belongs to him. "What's going on here?" Brittany jumped in first, words tumbling over each other. "This woman doesn't have a reservation. She refuses to leave. She claims she's waiting for a guest, but I've never seen her before, and she says she's waiting for Raymond Cole," Craig added. Derek looked at Adrian, not at her face, at her clothes, at her shoes, at the bag on the floor next to her chair. His eyes moved the way a scanner reads a barcode. And whatever result came back, it wasn't the one that gets you good service. He folded the napkin once, tucked it into his pocket, took a slow breath like a man who's about to explain something very simple to someone very stupid. "Look," he said. His voice was smooth, practiced, the voice of a man who rehearsed sounding reasonable while being anything but. "We have a certain standard at this hotel, a certain clientele. I'm sure you understand." Adrian understood perfectly. "I understand that I've told 3 of your employees the name of the guest I'm here to see, and not one of you has picked up a phone to verify it." Derek ignored that completely, didn't even blink. "Why don't we call you a cab? There are some lovely cafes down the street where you might feel more what?" He paused, smiled, the kind of smile that has teeth in it. "More comfortable." The word landed like a slap wearing a silk glove. Near the concierge desk, a woman named Tanya Garrison set her coffee cup down very slowly. She picked up her phone, opened the camera, hit record. Her hands were steady, but her jaw was locked so tight the tendons in her neck stood out like cables. Adrian stood up, slowly. Not because she was told to, because she chose to. She picked up her bag. She looked at Derek, then at Craig, then at Brittany. One by one. She gave each of them a moment, like she was filing their faces somewhere she could find them later. "I'm going to ask one more time, politely. I am here to meet Raymond Cole. He is a guest at this hotel. He is expecting me. Please, call his room." 3 employees, 3 chances. 3 times she gave them the name, the same name, the right name. Nobody called. Brittany stepped forward, past Derek, past Craig, right up to Adrian, close enough that Adrian could smell the vanilla perfume and the coffee on her breath. Her chest puffed out, her chin lifted. She looked at Adrian the way someone looks at something stuck to the bottom of their shoe. And she said it, loud, clear, and proud, like she wanted the chandeliers to ring with it. "Ma'am, beggars are not allowed in this hotel. I don't know how many ways I need to say it. Get out of my lobby, now!" The lobby went dead. Not quite dead. The pianist stopped. His hands hovered above the keys like they'd been frozen in glass. The women on the couch set their glasses down at the same time, as if choreographed. The bellhop stopped walking mid-stride. A child near the elevator tugged on his mother's sleeve, and she shushed him without looking down. Even the orchids on the front desk seemed to hold still. Adrian looked at Brittany. She didn't blink. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't clench her fists or shake her head or do any of the things you'd expect from a person who'd just been called a beggar in front of 50 strangers in a room full of marble and money. She just looked at her, long enough for the silence to develop a heartbeat of its own. And in that silence, in that long, electric, suffocating silence, Tanya Garrison's phone kept recording. The little red dot in the corner pulsing like a warning no one in that lobby bothered to read. Nobody moved. Not yet. But Brittany wasn't done. The silence had given her fuel, not pause. She mistook the shock in the room for agreement. She thought the lobby was on her side. She turned to Craig and snapped her fingers. Actually snapped them, like she was calling a dog to heel. "Get her out, now! I don't want to look at her anymore." Craig stepped forward. Close. Too close. Adrian could smell the starch in his collar and the spearmint gum he was chewing. He was so close she had to tilt her chin up to see his face. "Ma'am, you can walk out on your own or I can help you. Your choice." Adrian took one step back. Just one. Not out of fear, out of space. She needed room to breathe, and Craig had taken all of it. "I will leave when my friend comes down, or when you call his room. Those are the two options." Craig looked at Derek. Derek gave a small nod, barely a movement, just a dip of the chin. The kind of nod a man gives when he wants something done but doesn't want his fingerprints on it. Craig turned back to Adrian. "I need to see what's in your bag." "No." "Open the bag, ma'am." "No. You have no legal right to search my personal property." Derek stepped in now, hands in his pockets, voice calm, almost bored. "Let's not make this harder than it needs to be. For all we know, you could have taken something. Open the bag and we'll sort this out quietly." Adrian looked at him. Really looked at him. "You're accusing me of stealing." "I'm not accusing anyone of anything. I'm asking you to cooperate." "In front of all these people, you are accusing a woman you've never met, whose name you've never asked, of theft. With no evidence, no report, no missing item. You just looked at me and decided I must be a thief." She paused. Let the words settle into the marble. "I want you to say it clearly, on the record, in front of every person in this lobby. Say it." Derek's jaw tightened. His smile was gone now. The smooth voice cracked just for a second, and underneath it was something harder, something meaner. "If you've got nothing to hide, just open the damn bag." Adrian held the bag against her hip. "I am not opening anything. I am not a criminal. And I am not leaving until someone in this building does their job and picks up a phone." That was when Craig grabbed her. Not a shove, not a punch, but his hand closed around her upper arm, thick fingers pressing into the soft part above her elbow, and he pulled. Not gently. The kind of grip that says, "I'm done talking and you're going to move whether you want to or not." Adrian's body jerked sideways. Her bag swung off her shoulder and hit the armrest of the chair she'd been sitting in. The sound echoed, leather hitting wood, and a woman near the elevator gasped. Actually gasped, hand over her mouth like she'd seen something she wasn't supposed to see. "Take your hand off me." Adrian's voice was low, controlled, but there was iron underneath it now. "I am not resisting. I have not committed any crime. What you are doing right now is assault, and there are 50 witnesses in this room." Craig didn't let go. He adjusted his grip, tighter. "Walk. Take your hand off me. Walk, now." He steered her forward, past the reception desk, past the concierge, past the leather couches and the orchids and the frozen pianist and every single person who sat there and watched and did nothing. Tanya Garrison's phone tracked them across the lobby. The camera was shaking now. Her hands were trembling, but she didn't stop recording. She pressed her lips together so hard they went white, and she kept the lens on Adrian like it was the only honest thing left in the room. They didn't go to the front door. They went past it. Craig steered Adrian down a side corridor. The marble ended. The carpet ended. The chandeliers ended. Suddenly, the walls were cinder block. The floor was concrete. The air smelled different. Grease and garbage and industrial cleaner. They were behind the curtain now. The part of the hotel guests were never supposed to see. They walked past the kitchen. Through swinging double doors that banged against the walls. A line cook looked up from a cutting board, knife in hand, eyes wide. A dishwasher turned off her faucet. A busboy carrying a rack of glasses stopped so suddenly one tipped over and shattered on the floor. The sound of breaking glass rang through the corridor like an alarm nobody answered. Nobody said anything. Nobody stepped in. They walked past the loading dock, past stacked crates of wine and linen and cleaning supplies, past a dumpster that smelled like 3-day-old seafood and rotting flowers. A fly buzzed against the fluorescent light above them, tapping the plastic cover over and over like it was trying to escape. Craig pushed open a metal door at the end of the corridor. Gray daylight flooded in. An alley, cracked asphalt, a drain grate clogged with cigarette butts and wet napkins. The back of another building across the narrow gap, its bricks stained with water damage and pigeon droppings. He released her arm. Adrian stumbled forward half a step, caught herself and turned around. Behind Craig, standing in the doorway with her arms crossed and a smirk painted across her face, was Brittany. She leaned against the doorframe like she was posing for a photo she'd want to remember. "Next time, try the Holiday Inn, sweetie." Behind Brittany, leaning against the corridor wall with his pocket square still perfectly folded, Derek Weston laughed. Not a big laugh, a small one, a chuckle. The kind of laugh that comes from a man who just watched someone get dragged through the garbage and found it mildly entertaining. He shook his head slowly, amused, like the whole thing had been a minor inconvenience between his appetizer and his main course. The metal door slammed shut. The lock clicked. And Adrian Brooks stood alone in a dirty alley behind a 5-star hotel, with a bruise forming on her arm and rain beginning to fall on her shoulders. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She didn't pound on the door or call anyone names or break down the way they probably expected her to, the way they probably wanted her to, so they could tell each other later that she was hysterical, that she was aggressive, that they were right to throw her out. She gave them nothing. She stood there, still. The rain hitting the back of her neck, running down the collar of her white shirt, soaking through the fabric until it clung to her skin. Somewhere above her, a pigeon cooed on a fire escape. A delivery truck rumbled past the far end of the alley, its brakes squealing against wet pavement. The world kept going like nothing had happened, like a woman hadn't just been dragged through a kitchen and dumped next to a dumpster for the crime of sitting in a chair. She looked down at her arm. 4 red marks where Craig's fingers had been. Already swelling. They'd be purple by tonight. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out. Rain dotted the screen. Raymond. "Hey, I'm in the lobby. Where'd you go?" She stared at the message. Raindrops ran down the glass, blurring the letters, and she wiped the screen with her thumb. "They threw me out. Through the kitchen." 3 dots. Raymond typing. "What?" "Through the kitchen. Past the dumpsters. Out the service door. I'm standing in the alley behind the hotel right now." The 3 dots disappeared, then reappeared, then disappeared again. Raymond was trying to find words for something words weren't built for. Finally, "Don't move. I'm coming to find you." Adrian wiped the rain off her screen again, opened her contacts, scrolled to Nina Thornton. The phone rang twice. "Nina, I need you to pull every file we have on Crestline Hospitality Group. Every single one. Financial, legal, HR complaints, guest incident reports, internal audits, board minutes, everything." Nina's voice changed, went from Saturday morning casual to Monday morning sharp in half a second. "What happened?" "Everything I need to know about this company just happened." She hung up, slid the phone back into her pocket, wiped the rain from her face with the back of her hand. Then she looked up at the back of the hotel. 5 stories of cream-colored stone and dark windows. Somewhere on the other side of that building, Brittany Caldwell was back at her desk, straightening her name tag, proud of a job well done. Derek Weston was finishing his Eggs Benedict. Craig Ellison was writing up an incident report that probably read, "Trespasser removed without incident." They were already forgetting her. She was already a funny story they'd tell each other on their lunch break. The woman who thought she could just walk in, the beggar in the lobby. None of them knew. None of them had any idea what they had just set in motion. And by the time they figured it out, it would be far too late to stop it. Raymond Cole found her in the alley. He came around the corner of the building at a half jog, dress shoes slapping the wet asphalt, his conference lanyard still swinging around his neck. He saw her standing there, rain-soaked, arms crossed, white shirt clinging to her shoulders, and he stopped dead. He didn't ask if she was okay. He could see she wasn't. He took off his jacket, put it around her shoulders. She didn't thank him. She didn't need to. 15 years of friendship meant some things didn't require words. "Show me your arm," he said. She rolled up her sleeve. 4 bruises, already darkening, stamped into her skin like a receipt nobody asked for. Raymond stared at the marks. His jaw worked side to side the way it did when he was swallowing something he wanted to scream. He pulled out his phone and took a photo, then another. Close-up. The bruises against her skin, the rain on her sleeve. Evidence. Who did this? Security. Craig something. The manager approved it. Derek Weston. Derek. Raymond closed his eyes, breathed out through his nose. I know Derek. I've sat across from him at 4 quarterly reviews. He smiled at me this morning at breakfast. He smiled at me too, Adrian said, right before he told them to check my bag for stolen goods. Raymond put his phone away, buttoned his collar against the rain. And then he did something Adrian didn't expect. He didn't say, "Let me handle it." He didn't say, "We'll figure this out." He looked at her and said, "What do you want to do?" She looked at the metal door, the one they'd locked behind her. Rain was pooling at the base of it, running into a crack in the concrete. "I want to go back inside." "Through the front door?" "Through the front door." They walked around the building, side by side, past the valet station where the attendant recognized Raymond and started to smile, then saw Adrian, soaking wet, and the smile died halfway. Past the doorman who held the glass open without a word. Back into the lobby. The lobby hadn't changed. Same chandeliers, same marble, same orchids, same piano, though the pianist had started playing again. Something soft and uncertain, like he wasn't sure the room deserved music anymore. But the people had changed. The news had traveled the way bad news always does in small spaces. Fast, in whispers, through glances. The women on the couch were gone. The bellhop was nowhere in sight. A few new guests sat scattered around, oblivious, but the staff behind the desk had a different energy now. Tight shoulders, quick eyes. The posture of people who know something just happened and are hoping it doesn't come back. It came back. Raymond walked straight to the front desk. Adrian was 2 steps behind him, still wearing his jacket, still dripping rainwater onto the marble floor. The trail she left behind her glistened under the chandeliers like a path being drawn in real time. Brittany saw them first. Her face went through 3 expressions in 2 seconds. Confusion, recognition, and then something that wasn't quite fear but lived in the same neighborhood. Derek was standing near the concierge desk talking to Craig. Both of them turned when they heard Raymond's shoes on the marble. He wasn't walking quietly. "Mr. Cole," Derek said, straightening up, adjusting his pocket square out of habit. "I was just about to... Where is the woman who was sitting in this lobby 30 minutes ago?" Derek glanced at Craig. Craig glanced at Brittany. A triangle of eye contact that said everything and admitted nothing. "We had a trespasser earlier," Derek said. Smooth, practiced. "It's been handled. Nothing to worry about." "Handled." Raymond repeated the word like it tasted rotten. "You handled it." He stepped aside. And there she was, Adrian Brooks, standing behind him. Wet hair, wrinkled shirt, his jacket on her shoulders, bruises on her arm. She didn't say a word. She didn't have to. This woman Raymond said, his voice carrying across the lobby like a bell being struck, is Adrienne Brooks. She is the founder and CEO of Apex Equity Partners. Her firm owns 28% of Crestline Hospitality Group. That is the company that owns this hotel. That is the company that pays your salary, Derek. And yours, Brittany. And yours, Craig. He let it land, every syllable, like dropping stones into still water and watching the ripples spread. She was here to have brunch, with me. And while she was waiting, in a chair in the lobby doing nothing, your receptionist called her a beggar. Your security guard put his hands on her, and you, Derek, ordered them to drag her through the kitchen and dump her in an alley like a bag of trash. Brittany's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Her hand found the edge of the desk and gripped it like the floor was tilting. Craig took one step backward, then another. His arms uncrossed, his hands dropped to his sides. He looked smaller now, 6'3" and shrinking by the second. Derek's face had drained to the color of the marble beneath his feet. His pocket square was crooked. He hadn't noticed. His mouth moved, searching for something, an excuse, an explanation, a word that could undo the last hour. He found one. The wrong one. We didn't know who she was. Raymond stared at him for a long time, long enough for Derek to hear his own words echo back to him, long enough for the meaning to settle in like a stain that won't come out. That's exactly the problem, Derek. You shouldn't have needed to know who she was to treat her like a human being. Raymond turned. Adrienne turned. They walked out of the lobby together, through the front door, past the doorman, into the rain. Behind them, Brittany Caldwell stood at the front desk with both hands flat on the counter, staring at nothing. Her name tag caught the chandelier light. It was the last day she'd ever wear it. The video hit the internet before Adrienne's shirt had dried. Tanya Garrison posted it from the parking lot of the Wentworth Grand. She sat in her car with the engine running and the heater on full blast, hands still shaking from what she'd just watched. She trimmed the footage down to 4 minutes and 22 seconds, added one caption. 5-star hotel throws out a black woman through the kitchen, called her a beggar, dragged her past the dumpsters. This is what luxury looks like. She hit post, put her phone in the cup holder, drove home. By the time she pulled into her driveway, the video had 10,000 views. By dinner, it had 200,000. By midnight, it crossed 2 million. And it wasn't slowing down. The hashtag wrote itself. Hashtag Wentworth shame. It trended before sunrise. Comments poured in by the thousands. People were angry. Not internet angry, the kind that fades with the next scroll. Real angry. The kind that makes people tag news outlets and demand answers and call hotel chains directly and say, I had a reservation next month. Cancel it. Adrienne didn't post anything that night. She went home. She took a hot shower. She sat on her couch with a bag of ice on her arm and watched the video spread across every platform like a fire nobody could put out. The next morning, Sunday, she released a single statement through Apex Equity Partners. No press conference, no interview, just words on a page. I visited the Wentworth Grand Hotel to meet a friend for brunch. I was removed from the premises through a service exit before my friend arrived. I was not asked to verify my identity. I was not given the chance to explain. I was judged, and I was removed. One more line at the bottom. Apex Equity Partners is freezing all further investment activity with Crestline Hospitality Group, effective immediately, pending a full civil rights audit of the organization. That line hit Crestline's boardroom like a brick through a window. Monday morning, 8 a.m. Emergency board meeting. Conference call. Every seat filled. Every face grim. Adrienne was invited to attend. She joined by video. Camera on. Face calm. She didn't speak for the first 45 minutes. Just sat there, listening. Watching 12 executives panic in real time. The numbers were already devastating. Crestline's stock had dropped 8% in 48 hours. Two of their largest corporate clients, companies that booked hundreds of rooms a year for conferences and retreats, had placed their contracts under formal review. A travel industry association had issued a statement calling for an independent investigation. The phone lines at Crestline's headquarters hadn't stopped ringing since Saturday afternoon, and it was only Monday. By Tuesday, the terminations began. Brittany Caldwell was first. Patricia Hayes, Crestline's HR director, called her into a conference room at the hotel. Brittany walked in with her chin up, like she still believed she'd done nothing wrong, like she expected someone to take her side. "I was doing my job," she said. "She didn't have a reservation. She looked like she didn't belong." Patricia set a tablet on the table, pressed play. The video, 4 minutes and 22 seconds of Brittany's own voice echoing off marble walls. "And what does belonging look like to you, Brittany?" Brittany didn't answer. Terminated. Effective immediately. She was escorted out of the building with her belongings in a cardboard box. Through the front door, not the service exit. Though everyone in the room felt the irony sit down like an uninvited guest. Craig Ellison was next. Suspended without pay pending a full investigation. His body camera footage, hotel policy required all security personnel to wear them, confirmed everything. He grabbed Adrian's arm without warning, without provocation, without legal authority. The footage showed his fingers digging into her bicep while she repeated clearly and calmly, "Do not touch me." He touched her anyway. The district attorney's office had already requested a copy of the tape. Assault charges were on the table. And then there was Derek. Derek Weston, general manager. The man with the silver hair and the pocket square and the smooth voice. The man who told them to check her bag. The man who laughed when they dumped her in the alley. The board didn't give him a meeting, they gave him a phone call. 7 minutes long. Gross misconduct. Failure of leadership. Enabling discriminatory conduct on hotel property. His severance package, 2 years of salary, stock options, a consulting agreement, voided entirely under the misconduct clause in his contract. Gone. Every dollar, every share. When reporters reached Derek for comment, he said 4 words. "This is blown out of proportion." The internet had one answer to that. The video, again. 4 minutes and 22 seconds, looping, everywhere. Brittany released a statement through a cousin's Facebook page. "I was protecting our guests." Derek's lawyer sent a press release. "This was a misunderstanding that has been taken out of context." Craig told a reporter outside his apartment building, still in his uniform from the day he was suspended, "I was following orders." 3 excuses, 3 people, 3 different ways of saying the same thing. It wasn't my fault. The video didn't care whose fault it was. The video just kept playing. But the firings were just the beginning. Because when Adrian Brooks told Nina to pull every file on Crestline, she meant every file. And what those files revealed turned a viral hotel incident into something much bigger, something systemic, something that had been rotting behind the marble and the chandeliers for years. Lawrence Adams, Adrian's attorney, was the kind of lawyer who didn't raise his voice because he didn't need to. He let documents do the screaming, and the documents from the Wentworth Grand screamed plenty. The audit took 3 weeks. A team of 4 investigators combed through guest complaint records, internal communications, HR files, training manuals, and employee evaluations going back 5 years. What they found was not a single bad day. It was a pattern. 14 formal complaints from Black and Latino guests over the past 3 years. 14. One woman reported being followed through the hallways by security on 3 separate stays. A Black businessman said he was asked for his room key 4 times in one evening. Once in the elevator, once in the hallway, once at the pool, and once in the lobby, by 4 different employees. A Latino couple wrote that a front desk agent refused to honor their confirmed reservation and sent them to a budget hotel 6 blocks away, claiming the system showed no booking. The system showed the booking. It was right there on the screen. 14 complaints. 0 investigations. Not one follow-up. Not one disciplinary action. Not one apology letter. The complaints went into a folder. The folder went into a drawer. The drawer stayed shut, but that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the emails. Internal emails between Derek Weston and his front desk supervisors going back 18 months. In one, Derek wrote, and Lawrence Adams read this out loud in a courtroom, slowly, so every word could land. Use your discretion when dealing with walk-ins who don't match our guest profile. We need to protect the brand experience. Guest profile, brand experience. Two phrases that sounded like hospitality jargon and meant something else entirely. In another email sent after a black family complained about being denied access to the rooftop bar despite having a valid reservation, Derek wrote, "Remind the team, we set the tone. Not every guest is our guest. Not every guest is our guest." 5 words, written in an email, sent to staff. Policy disguised as preference. Lawrence Adams filed the civil lawsuit on a Tuesday morning. The complaint named Crestline Hospitality Group, the Wentworth Grand Hotel, Brittany Caldwell, Craig Ellison, and Derek Weston. The charges: racial discrimination in a place of public accommodation in violation of Title II of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, assault and battery, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and negligent supervision. The lawsuit sought compensatory and punitive damages. Adrian announced publicly that 100% of any award would be donated to organizations fighting discrimination in the hospitality and housing industries. Every cent. She didn't want their money, she wanted their attention, and she got it. The media coverage was relentless. Cable news played the video on loop, 4 minutes and 22 seconds, over and over, with legal analysts breaking down every frame. Morning shows invited former Wentworth employees to speak, and they spoke. A former concierge described a training session where a supervisor told new hires to keep an eye on guests who look out of place. When someone asked what out of place meant, the supervisor smiled and said, "You know what it means." A former housekeeper, a woman who'd worked at the hotel for 6 years, testified that she was instructed to report any guest of color staying on the top 3 floors. Not for any reason, not because of noise or complaints, just report them. Let management know. Keep a list. A former valet said he was told not to park certain cars in the front lot. "Keep them around the side," his manager told him. "We don't want the entrance looking like a rental car lot." The cars he was told to move were never rentals. They were just owned by the wrong people. One by one, they came forward. 6 former employees, 6 stories, 6 pieces of a pattern that Derek Weston had built carefully, quietly, over years. A system designed to look like service and function like segregation. The criminal case moved faster than anyone expected. The district attorney charged Craig Ellison with misdemeanor assault based on his own body camera footage. His lawyer tried to argue that Craig was acting under the direction of his employer. The DA's response was simple. Following an illegal order is not a defense. Craig took a plea deal. 12 months of supervised probation. Mandatory completion of a sensitivity and civil rights training program. A permanent mark on his criminal record that would follow him into every job interview, every background check, every application for the rest of his life. The civil trial began on a Monday in October. It lasted 9 days. The video was played for the jury 3 times. 3 times they watched Brittany call Adrian a beggar. 3 times they watched Craig grab her arm. 3 times they watched a woman get walked through a kitchen and pushed out a back door into the rain. Expert witnesses testified about systemic discrimination in the American hospitality industry. Studies were cited. Data was presented. But the jury didn't need the data. They had the video, and they had the emails, and they had 6 former employees sitting in a courtroom saying, "This is what it was like to work there." Crestline's defense team argued it was an isolated incident, a regrettable lapse in judgment by 3 individuals, not a reflection of company culture or policy. Lawrence Adams stood up, adjusted his glasses, and read Derek Weston's email one more time. "Not every guest is our guest." He looked at the jury. "This wasn't a lapse. This was the policy. The jury deliberated for less than 5 hours. Guilty on all counts. Crestline Hospitality Group was found liable for systemic racial discrimination. The judgment? $500,000 in compensatory damages, $1.2 million in punitive damages. Derek Weston was found personally liable for an additional $250,000. The judge delivered a statement from the bench. She spoke for 4 minutes. She talked about the promise of public accommodation, that a hotel, by law and by principle, is a place that serves everyone. She said the Wentworth Grand had broken that promise not once, but as a matter of routine. And she said that the court hoped this verdict would remind every hotel, every restaurant, every business that opens its doors to the public that those doors must open equally, or they should not open at all. Adrian sat in the courtroom and listened. She didn't smile. She didn't celebrate. She nodded once. Then she stood up, put on her coat, and walked out through the front door. 2 weeks later, she completed the full acquisition of Crestline Hospitality Group. The stock had dropped so far since the scandal that the purchase price was 40% below the original valuation. She bought the whole thing. First order of business, a company-wide restructuring, new hiring standards, mandatory anti-discrimination training for every employee at every level, from valet to vice president. A guest advocate position created at every single Crestline property, someone whose only job was to make sure no guest was ever treated the way Adrian had been treated. The Wentworth Grand's entire front desk staff was replaced within 3 months. New faces, new training, new name tags. Same chandeliers, same marble, same orchids, but a very different door. So where are they now? Brittany Caldwell never worked in hospitality again. She applied to 3 hotels after her termination. All 3 recognized her name. All 3 said no. She moved to a different state, deleted her social media accounts. But the internet has a long memory. Her name still auto-completes in search engines. The first result is always the video. She never made a real apology. The closest she came was a post on a cousin's Facebook page. I made a mistake and I'm paying for it every day. The comments underneath were not sympathetic. Derek Weston hired a lawyer, then a different lawyer, then tried to represent himself. The personal judgment of $250,000 combined with legal fees ate through his savings in 14 months. He sold his house, then his car, filed for bankruptcy 22 months after the day he laughed in that corridor. He gave one interview, a local news station. The reporter asked if he had any regrets. Derek said, I regret that the situation escalated the way it did. Not, I regret what I did. Not, I regret how I treated her. He regretted the situation, like it was weather, like it happened to him. Craig Ellison completed his probation without incident, attended every training session, signed every form. When it was over, he handed in his security license and never renewed it. Last anyone heard, he was working at a distribution warehouse outside the city, loading pallets onto trucks. Night shift, no uniform, no radio, no authority over anyone. The bruises on Adrian's arm faded within 2 weeks, but some marks don't live on the skin. Adrian Brooks was named to a National Hospitality Industry Reform Board 6 months after the trial. She helped draft new industry-wide guidelines for guest treatment, staff training, and incident reporting. 4 major hotel chains adopted them within the first year. Apex Equity Partners launched the Front Door Initiative, investing in hotels and restaurants that could demonstrate measurable diversity and inclusion practices. Not promises, not mission statements on a wall. Numbers, audits, results. In its first 18 months, the program funded 12 properties across 6 states. Adrian gave a keynote at the National Hospitality Leadership Conference the following spring. 800 people, every seat filled. She walked to the podium wearing a navy blazer and a thin gold chain, the one her grandmother gave her. She said, I don't care how many stars your hotel has. If your front desk cannot see the humanity in every person who walks through the door, regardless of what they're wearing, regardless of what they look like, then your hotel has 0 stars. 0. The room erupted. Tanya Garrison was in the audience that day, 3rd row. After the incident, she left her consulting job and founded a nonprofit called Speak Up, Stand Up. The organization trains ordinary people to intervene safely when they witness discrimination. First year, over 3,000 people trained in 16 cities. When asked why she started it, Tanya said, "Because I sat in that lobby and filmed it, but I didn't say anything. The camera wasn't enough. Next time, I want to be the person who stands up." There will be a next time. There always is. The question is whether someone will be sitting in that lobby, watching it happen, and choosing to do something about it. Which brings me to you. If you were there, if you saw what Tanya saw, heard what she heard, watched a woman get called a beggar and dragged through a kitchen, what would you have done? Would you have pulled out your phone? Or would you have stood up and said something? Tell me in the comments. And if this story hit you the way it hit me, drop a like, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe. Because next week we've got another story that's going to make your jaw hit the floor. I'll see you there.